it's Marina from the University of Georgia Intensive English Program. Spelling is something that can be a big challenge on the IELTS. Spelling is important for the reading, writing, and listening sections, so it can be quite tricky. But here are some tips that can help you do better. Firstly, spelling isn't that hard on the reading section because you can copy your answers directly from the reading passage onto your answer sheet. So you don't have to worry too much about spelling there. Spelling on the writing is a little bit more tricky. The best tip there is to just learn the basic English spelling rules. Beyond that, remember that you can't use contractions or abbreviations on the writing section because it's a formal academic writing paper. Fortunately, there are some tips for the listening section. Unlike the writing section, you can use abbreviations on the listening section, and you should. Whenever you can use an abbreviation, I would highly recommend that you do it. So which words can you abbreviate? You can't just abbreviate any word you want, but if a word has a standard English abbreviation, then it's perfectly fine to abbreviate it on the listening section. So some examples of this are words like the months of the year. So in English, the months of the year are abbreviated using the first 3 letters of the month. Remember that you must capitalize the first letter and you need to put a period at the ends because the abbreviation is made by just the first part of the word. So for example, January is abbreviated Jan, February is abbreviated Feb, October is OCT, and September is abbreviated using either the first 3 letters or the first 4 letters. All the other months are just the first 3 letters. But remember, in English, we always capitalize the months of the year, so don't forget to capitalize the first letter even in the abbreviation, and don't forget your period because you need that to get it right too. Capitalization is part of spelling on the IELTS, so if you don't capitalize something correctly, then you'll actually get the question wrong, so really pay attention to this. Other words that are abbreviated are days of the week. Like months of the year, the days of the week are abbreviated using the first 3 letters of the word. So Sunday becomes sun, Monday is mon, and so on. The only exception, again, is Thursday, like September. So Thursday can be abbreviated using either the first 3 letters or the first 4 letters. It's up to you. Measurements are also commonly found on the IELTS. These are words like meter, kilometer, and they're easy to abbreviate also. Technically, since they're measurements, we don't call these abbreviations, but we call their shortened forms symbols. And because they're symbols and not abbreviations, you actually do not need to put the period at the end of their shortened form. But measurements are really easy to shorten. Most often they're shortened with just the first or even 1 or 2 letters from the word, and they almost always follow the same pattern. On the screen, you can see some examples of how you would abbreviate or shorten measurements. So, for example, meter becomes M, kilometer becomes km, centimeter becomes cm, and so on. It's important to note here that even though the IELTS is a British test, both American and British spelling is accepted. So for the word meter, you could spell it M-E-T-E-R, like we do here in America, or you could spell it M-E-T-R-E, like they do in Britain. Either one is fine, and it's really just up to you. Other common abbreviations that you might have to use on the IELTS have to do with addresses. These are pretty simple also. You can see some common ones on the screen. So, for example, road would be abbreviated RD and avenue can be abbreviated AVE. Something else that really can trip people up in spelling is with numbers. So on the IELTS, you can write your numbers as the word, or you can use the actual numeral. So if the answer was 5, you could write F-I-V-E, or you could just write the number 5. You should always write the number. Never try to write out the word. It's much more likely that you'll make a mistake if you try to spell out the word. But if you just write the number, like 42 for 42, then you probably won't make a mistake. So always, always do this. And this goes for all of our abbreviations. There's no point in trying to write out the word when you can use the abbreviation and get the question right. You don't get any extra points for writing out the whole word. So abbreviate, and that way you probably won't make as many mistakes. Names are also common on the IELTS listening section, especially listening section 1. Common names like John or Laura or well-known cities or countries are things that you should just know how to spell. They will not spell these out for you. But if someone has an unusual name, then they will prompt you and tell you the letters. So it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with the English alphabet. So for example, if the listening section says, "Hi, my name is John Fegan," that's F-E-A-G-A-N. They will spell it for you, but they only say it once and they usually speak pretty quickly, so make sure that you copy it down as you go. Now, the final thing to remember, and this is really important, is that the only thing that the test giver is going to look at is your answer sheet. At the end of the listening section, they give you 10 minutes to copy your answers from your test page onto your answer sheet, and the only thing that's graded is your answer sheet. So while you're listening, don't worry too much about spelling. You do need to focus on spelling when you're copying your answers later, but while you're listening to the test, don't worry about it. As long as you understand what you're trying to write so that you can copy it correctly spelled later, that's what's important. You can only listen to the listening sections once, and they go really fast. So be focused on trying to get the answers down. Worry about spelling in that last 10 minutes when you're copying your answers. So finally, you can find out all of this information and more about how to abbreviate and use symbols with some information I've put on our website, as well as some practice sheets that can help you put it into action. You can find this information at iep.uga.edu. Thanks for listening.